Hello and welcome to another exciting Breakfast with Unity. I'm your host, Max Moreau, and today we're going to be opening up Unity. Hold on. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making it so an explosion can be blocked by walls, and we're going to be doing it using a raycast method, where we raycast every object that could be affected by the explosion, and then only affect the ones that actually can be affected by the explosion. And it's actually very easy to set this up. So first, we're going to need a little test scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new scene. I'm just going to go ahead and first we're going to create a new folder. 86 blocked explosion. Block bubble. Not capitalized. Blockable explosion. Let's call it that. And what I'm going to do first is we're just going to create a very simple scene. I'm just going to create a new scene, create a plane just so we have some ground to work with. I'm not even going to bother making it bigger this time. So now we've got our plane, and I'm going to create a cube that represents a wall, and we're going to just make it like 3 by 0.5. We'll make it a nice, relatively thin wall, and let's make it just 1 meter. So that's actually a half meter wall. So this is not a very high wall. This is let's move it up so that it takes up the whole thing. Yeah, sure, why not? 0.5. There we go. So now we've got a wall. And let's make some cubes to explode. So I'm going to create a empty game object. We're going to put our grid spawner on it. And I'm just going to move it up here real quick so that we can put something together. And we're just going to make it a X, Y, and Z. Let's do, what direction are we pointing? So let's do X and Y. So let's do 5 by 5. And then what we're going to do is spawn cubes now. So we'll create these 5 and 5. Oh, or it won't do anything. Let's try it again. Spawn cubes now. Oh, we didn't actually put anything there. So we need a basic cube. I'm just going to create a new cube. We're going to give it a rigid body. Physics, rigid body. And let's see. And actually, let's make these cubes smaller. Let's make them 0.5. So this thing should fall to the ground. It has gravity. Everything's nice. We're just going to create a prefab of it. We're going to delete this. I'm going to go back to this game object. We're going to put the cube in here. Since I decided to make it 0.5, I'm going to make the spacing 0.5 as well. Actually, I'm going to make it 0.501. So they're not exactly touching. And let's make it 10 by 10 in this case. So let's see what this does when we spawn it. I'm just going to move it, as I said, kind of out of the way. And we're going to need to spawn cubes now. There we go. There's our cubes. We've got a small amount of space between them. It's probably more cubes than we needed, actually. So I'm not going to undo that because that doesn't actually work. So hold on. Let's get rid of all these cubes. Delete. Back to this thing. All right, so 10's too many, so let's just do 5. And spawn cubes now. There we go. That looks great. And I'm just going to put all of these into this game object, and I'm going to make sure that the game object no longer has the grid spawner on it, so it doesn't try to do that at the start of the level. And this is just so that I can move everything into position. So we're just going to move this game object till these things are flat on the ground, effectively. All right, let's see how this looks if we hit play. Hopefully it won't fall apart too badly. It didn't. Yay, it stayed together. That's a great sign. So I guess our camera is facing this thing that way. I'm actually going to change the camera to be more of a side view here, and I'm going to do that the lazy way. So you can actually make the camera be wherever your editor camera is. So the way you do that is you select the camera that you want to move, and you choose Game Object, Align with View. There we go. So now when we go to the game view, whoops, didn't want to go to 2D view. Now when we go to the game view, you can see that we can see the block pile. Yay! So now let's make a quick explosive. So I'm going to create a sphere. We're going to give it a rigid body, so physics rigid body. So this will make it fall and react to things and stuff. And then we're going to give it one of our explosive scripts. I think we have one called explosive something. Maybe it's grenade. Grenade launcher. Let's see what grenade launcher has in it. I'm going to save this scene. Where are we going to save it to? Blockable explosions. Alright, so what were we using for our grenade? So if we go to the main camera, I think it has something that launches. It's called a grenade. And this grenade is based on... Okay, so the way we do this is we have add explosion force on start, and that's on the explosion, and we have give on collide on the grenade. Okay, so we'll rebuild that real quick. As a matter of fact, I'm just actually going to copy this. I'm going to duplicate this grenade and just put it into our project here so that we can tweak it as we need. So let's go back into our level. And I'm just going to get rid of this here. Who cares? We're going to throw the grenade in the scene. And I'm going to make it so that the grenade will drop and hit just a little bit behind the wall. So how big is the radius? Well, we'll find out. I'm just going to hit play and see what happens. 0 things happened. What happened there? What happened to our grenade? Where is our grenade? Huh. It's falling through the world. Cool. Why is it falling through the world? So let's take a look at this guy. Hit play. Oh, it has add force on start. Okay, so it flies out. So I'm going to remove that. So now it should just drop. There we go. And it's a little bit too forceful, but we can see very clearly that it affected everything, even the stuff that was blocked by the wall. So let's first affect that force real quick. And the other thing I'm going to have to do is I just realized we want the grenade explosion duplicated as well, because we're going to be modifying that as well. Had this a little bit more complicated setup than I realized. So let's make it so this grenade uses this grenade explosion. And so now we can take this grenade explosion and adjust the amount. So we're going to do a force of, I don't know, let's do a force of 30 and a radius of 10. There we go. That's more like what we want, I think. I just realized this is probably exactly the wrong angle. I'm going to move this back just a little bit. The way we're going to do this is very simple, and so in certain cases, if it's really close to the wall, it probably won't affect the explosion at all, because it'll just let's move it back so we have a better angle on things. See if it still works. Still works. Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to change the way this explosion works. So the explosion was based on the script called, not give on collide, but rather on the explosion itself. It's on add explosion force on start. So I'm going to find this script real quick. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to bring it over here because I don't want to affect our previous project stuff. So occasionally we have kind of duplicated code on here. So add blockable explosion. So I'm going to double click this. That'll open up MonoDevelop, play the Jeopardy theme while that goes. And we're going to add blockable explosion force on start. Very verbose. So what we're going to do now is, instead of so before, what we would do is we would get any rigid body that's in the radius and then apply force to it. And we have to do this because, like, you can't, there is no just add an explosion at a point and then just have it affect everything automatically. You have to actually find the things that you want to explode and then apply explosion forces to their rigid bodies, which seems like a kind of a pain. But when you deal with situations like this, all of a sudden you see why this is available. It's so that you can actually kind of shift the behavior a little bit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add an additional check. So what we're going to do is, if our collider, named Cole in this case, we're getting all the coals in overlap sphere, transform to the position radius. Overlap sphere basically just finds everything that's a collider and checks, tells you that, hey, I'm a collider, and puts it in a list for you. And so we can do a for each loop on that. So we're going to do if Cole dot so this is a collider, and colliders actually have a raycast in them. You can actually raycast from a collider, and what this does is it's a raycast that will only check to see if the ray hits this collider. I forget if it's blocked or not, so this may not actually work, but I'm going to try this first. So bear with me if this does not actually work. So it has to take a ray in this case, so we'll do ray, new ray equals new ray, and we give it an origin and direction. We're going to give it transform position, and the direction would be col.transform.position minus col.transform.position minus transform.position. So this just means the direction towards it. And I probably have these two terms reversed because I always do. So so there's our ray. We then use new ray here, and we don't care about the hit info. Oh, I guess we have to have hit info. That's silly. Okay, whatever. For some reason, there's only one overload of the collider raycast. So we'll just create a raycast hit. Hit. We'll pass out hit, and max distance we'll just do math f dot infinity. All right, so if we raycast and we hit, as I said, this should only be true if it actually hits this object, although we'll see what happens. As I said, this may not actually work the way I want it to. So let's see if this does what I want it to do. So let's hit save, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to grenade explosion, and I actually remembered to attach the script this time. We're going to remove the old script and add this new one on. And we're going to do force mode impulse and radius, what did we have before, 10, and force of, I don't know, 30 or something. So let's hit play and see what happens. Alright, it still hit all the blocks. Is normalized. Alright, I think that's, I don't know what that error is about. I'm just going to reverse these two terms. I don't think this is actually going to work, but I'm going to just try it real quick before moving on to using the regular raycast system. Save, hit play. Oh, oops, I somehow had an additional hyphen in here. Save, play. Okay, well that changed things, certainly. So that, I think, proves that we were raycasting in the right direction before, because we were only doing it if it raycast successfully, but it was just going right through the wall. We didn't care about the wall. And that's because this ray only will affect that object, and so that's really not as useful as I was hoping for. I was just hoping that it would only return true if it hit that object, not that it was only checking against that object. But we can make this work. So So let's change this. We're not going to need array anymore because there's actually enough. So we are going to need a hit though. So we're going to do just a physics.raycast. And what we're going to do is transform.position, not transform.forward. We do col.transform.position minus transform.position. So then what else do we have? So raycast, we need... Why is it saying Unity engine before everything? That's weird. Vector 3 origin, Vector 3 direction. We want one with a raycast hit. There we go. There we go. So this should be set up. So so now if hit dot collider equals col. So if we've hit our desired collider. So if it actually hits this this object when we try and shoot it at it, then we apply the explosion force. Otherwise, it will hit something else. So let's see if this works. So if we hit play, hopefully, cross my fingers. Yay! It worked. You can see that the cubes that were blocked by the explosion were safe from the explosion. Yay! And the way this worked is. At the point of impact, which actually I'm going to show you a new trick that I didn't know about. This also can be done with breakpoints by just setting a breakpoint and then running through the debug and stuff. But I find that it locks up the editor too much when you I don't really like that much. And recently I started using this. It's nice. Debug.break. This will just pause the editor the moment it happens. So we just can. Oh yeah, it's actually a function, so you have to do one of those things. So if we just hit play now. At the moment of the explosion, there we go. So this is right when the explosion is happening. And what is actually happening on this frame, and actually I paused it in a really bad place because this can actually pause here a lot of times. If I hit forward, oh, it actually didn't pause here a bunch of times, so good. So it'll just pause on that frame. But let's actually just do it at the point where this is starting. Save. So if we just hit play. So at this moment, when the object has hit the ground, it has just exploded and we've just spawned an explosion. What this is doing is from this point, we do an overlap sphere, which is this big old 10-meter sphere. Like, it's probably bigger than that. It's like really big. And because it's 10 meters on a side, so yeah, it's this huge sphere. And it's going through everything in that sphere, and what it's doing is, hey, I found an object in that sphere. And it shoots a raycast at that object. And if that raycast hits the object that was described in the sphere, when it does the raycast, that means that it hit it and should apply a force to it. And so it'll raycast, and in the cases of the blocks below, it raycasts and hits this wall in between. Now, these raycasts are not perfect because they hit just the center of the object. Obviously, if we hit one frame in, you'll see that you could probably argue that some force should be applied to these blocks here at the top, just because the force is coming in. But we don't have the ability to have that granular a calculation. It would be very expensive to do so. I'm not saying it's not possible to do so. It's just it would be incredibly expensive. And so so we don't have that granularity. So this is not being blocked perfectly. It's just being blocked by line of sight to the center of the object. And so all the objects that could be hit by the rays do get hit by the rays, and all the objects that couldn't don't. And so that's how we now have blocks that only get affected by the appropriate placement here. I'm actually going to try a little bit, one more little fancy thing. I'm going to try and make this into like a 2-slit experiment here. We're going to just finally take this cube, duplicate it, and I'm just going to raise it so that it floats like Mario Brothers. And we're just going to do something like that. So now if we hit play, oops. Okay, it didn't quite block when I wanted to block. Because it was 2 before, right? Yeah. So I'm just going to move this down a little bit more and try again. Okay, so that actually worked. It didn't apply the force to the top one. The top one still kicked back a lot because they were pushed from underneath from the other blocks moving. But it actually did work. So I'm going to get rid of this debug break now. Save and hit play. And yeah, so we have blockable explosions. I like it. Let's call it. Thank you very much for joining us. If you have any questions, please email me, pushypixels@pushypixels.com. You can also tweet me at Drakfire, that's DRAKFYRE. And please donate, patreon.com/cookingwithunity. Really appreciate your support. Your support keeps the show going. Yeah, thank you very much. You guys have a great one, and I probably can't catch you tonight for Scape. Yeah, no, I can't. Just too busy at the new workplace right now. I've got big shoes to fill there, so the guy that was there is awesome, and yeah, so I'm learning the ropes. So yeah, anyway, you guys have a great one, and I'll catch you later.